world. We're so excited to bring in Mark Sargent. We're going to talk about Flat Earth some more. I'm Shannon McVeigh. This is Tim Ray. Let's just bring him in. Good morning, Mark.
Drag him in.
Drag him in.
Good morning. Hey, can you guys see me, or am I just audio?
Now I see you.
Yeah, we see you.
We see you now.
We see you. All of you.
Refer to what you say all the time to everybody. I always say, and I give you credit, but when you said non-player characters, that explains everything to me. Because there are people in this world that just don't get it. They just don't get it. They don't see anything.
Yeah, most of them. In fact, I watched a documentary just the other night called "A Glitch in the Matrix," and they were going into the whole NPC thing. And and everyone on there was convinced that most of the people walking around are NPCs. You know them. You've seen them.
Yeah. The people that wear their masks in their cars alone.
Do you think that's because, Dave, that they've been dropping nanotechnology for a long time, and there are people being manipulated just from the chemtrails and all the rest of that crap?
Maybe, but they could have been that way since birth. I mean, NPC, we're talking low code programs, basically. Right. Not to use too many Matrix references, but yeah. So, but again, you know them. I mean, you've seen they make decisions that do not make sense. Right. You're staring at them going, why would you do this?
Shannon has a question for you about a movie.
I do. Your documentary, is it true? And I got to go back to the comment. Somebody had commented earlier that you created this documentary and somebody came out with like a $20,000 laser thing to say that the earth was flat and ended up proving that it was round. And you guys just ignored it. Okay.
First off, quick correction. I did not make the documentary. That was done by an independent team in LA. They hated Flat Earth by the end, which is why there was no sequel made, even though it tracked really well everywhere. There was no intention of making a sequel. They hated us.
Okay.
Which is why they spun it the way they did. When you're talking about the Globebusters, we did buy a $20,000 gyro. And did it show 15 degrees? And I know I know we're limited on how much time do we have?
We got plenty of time. You're with us.
We got 25 minutes.
All right. Well, I mean, did it show 15 degrees movement per hour in the sky? Yes. The question is what's moving? And that is, we say the sky is moving, and mainstream science says the earth is moving, which is true. I don't know. If you watch time lapse of any sky thing, you're gonna believe that the sky is moving. So it's just a question of he said, she said type thing. Oh. So, but again, the creators of the film hated us. They spun, which is why they ended the movie. I don't know when the last time you saw it was, which is why they ended the movie with showing that Jaren from Jarenism supposedly screwed up the laser experiment, which he absolutely did not. No, he didn't do his due diligence, the laser experiment. But the problem was when they were done, by the time they realized how much they hated us, the movie was already shot. It was already in the can, and they didn't have enough money to go back and reshoot. So it's like, okay, we're going to tweak the hell out of this thing in editing. And we didn't even know they hated us until we listened to the iTunes director's commentary.
Really?
Why do they hate you so much? I mean, because I have to say, your crowd too all hates Shannon and globalists. You know?
Do you remember those awful comments? They wanted to kill me.
So I mean, there's a lot of hate going on both sides. It looks like
we could get into so much of that. I mean, there's two sides. One, our community is very, very passionate anyway. So everyone in the Flat Earth community hated that documentary. And I said, what did you hate about it? They go, the dissenting voices. I go, that's what drew the people in. I go, what would you have pulled out? I would have pulled out the astronaut and the scientist and the psychologist and all these people. I go, well, then it would have been a propaganda piece.
Right.
On the flip side, everyone that hates Flat Earth, it's mostly because of conditioning. You know, again, Dave probably told you, you put a globe in a classroom when you're 6 years old and you leave it there until at least you graduate from high school. Mm-hmm. That's very strong conditioning. I mean, you put the flag in the corner of your classroom through high school and people join the military.
Is there a Flat Earth globe-like thing that it could be replaced? Is there something created like that? Like you could put a stand of a flat Earth somewhere you know.
Oh yeah. We have a wonderful a guy from the documentary, Chris Pontius, who makes fantastic 3D models.
Really?
And I was really surprised nobody jumped on that and did some sort of mass production. But yeah, it's 3dmodels.com.
Well,
wonderful.
Last time we had you on, and we talked a lot about the the things that or didn't make sense to being the flat Earth, and I think we covered a lot of that with Dave already. So to advance the conversation here, can we talk about what's the conclusion? Why we're being lied to more so in detail? Because to me,
are you talking about flat Earth? Don't look at my question.
Why lie about the Earth? Why lie about the Earth? I'll make it even.
That was my question.
I'll make it even more simple. Let's say you figure it out. Let's say you're a black hat, right? Let's say you figured it out in 1960, because that's when we're saying we basically, the governments didn't have the ability. We didn't have the raw technology to figure it out until 1960. Do you tell people? Well, your initial instinct, being a journalist, media person, is like, oh, the people have a right to know. We should tell people. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a minute. What could happen if we tell people this? And potentially it's utter chaos. I mean, real quick, academically, all the universities would have to burn libraries down and rebuild them from scratch, because so many things would have to change. Economically, world markets would have to be suspended for months, because it's like, what the hell does it mean? I mean, come on, the market's been so twitchy as it is.
This would be bigger than the alien variable.
Oh, yeah. Let me get to that.
You can't believe in aliens and flat Earth at the same time, right?
Yes, you can. I have to get to that too.
Okay.
The third one is religion, which is all the 5 major religious houses of the world: Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity. They would all be given leverage against science simultaneously. You throw those 3 things, you have an X-Men smoking man room where they're all sitting there. It's like, what's the worst that could happen? Right? And they list off. It's like, yeah, we're not telling anybody until we figure this out. To your point, though, look what happened. And they would have used back then, because Roswell was only 13 years old at the time. They would have said, look what the hell happened with Roswell. Right? We only had radio and newspapers, and people were freaking the hell out. Because of the concept. It's like, no, people aren't ready. Well, they were not ready in 1960. I would have been right there in the Black Hat meeting going, yeah, we're not telling people. To your point, though, about aliens, yes, they can coexist. Do I think, I've seen them with night vision. You want to look up in the sky and see some freaky stuff, get some night vision binoculars, 5 power or higher, Gen 2, start staring at the sky. It's crawling with things.
Really?
And they're moving all over the place. The question is, where are they from? Right? Mm-hmm. Now, once you're into flat Earth, you know they're not from Mars or Jupiter or Venus and stuff like that. They're probably just older versions of us. Could be interdimensional, but they're definitely not millions and billions of light years away. They're just right here with us. And they seem to have rules. For whatever reason, they can't seem to land in somebody's backyard, take a few selfies, shake hands, and leave. For obvious reasons. Prime directive, probably.
On the alien, just why do you think mainstream media is gearing us up for an alien invasion? Because that's what they're doing. Why?
And I don't like to get into it too much, because it's one of those things that I have wanted for so long. It's like,
take me home.
If you're old enough, Alien and Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster, those stories have been around forever. Predate most of the other conspiracies. Been around for a long time. And I hear this every once in a while. So, we're going to disclose this, or we're going to disclose this. Yeah, the fact that mainstream's talking about it, and I've had enough people. It's like, sending me different articles. It's like, okay, eventually maybe they would, but when they do, if it finally happens, if all of a sudden, the ship, it's like, oh look, a ship just landed in the middle of Paris. I'll be the first one to say, what the hell took you so long? It's like, what were you waiting for? And timing is everything.
Yeah. Okay, to bring it back to Flat Earth real quick, because Dave, I didn't get to ask any questions because this guy over here. So he was saying, he touched upon that not all flat earthers think that it's a dome. Is that true? So can you explain a little bit about this?
Yeah, that was in the documentary as well.
The inside fighting. That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Between them, not for us.
In the In the documentary, I said that it's kind of the flat Earth community's kind of like the Scottish Highlands, where we'll hack each. There's a unified cause there.
That's great. I love that. See, that's like family. I can beat my brother up, but nobody else can, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And so with the dome thing, I knew it was going to happen. It's a big margin. It's like 70% dome, 30% no dome.
Your dome.
I'm dumb.
Yeah.
And Dave's dumb, I think. In fact, I'm 90% sure Dave's dumb. But there's some people that don't, the attitude behind the other people they still think it's flat, but they don't like being fenced in. They don't like being constricted. It's like, man, you're being all Captain Bring Down and enclosing me. It's like, whatever. It's like you still have that gravity versus the atmosphere of the space problem if you don't have a dome. But it's fine. I've gotten into debates with people. When we do conferences and meetups, we're all great friends, but we have differences, and people write books.
But rightfully so. See, that's real. I mean, whether you agree with it or not, whether I agree with it or not doesn't matter. But you're actually having open dialogue, critical thinking dialogue, and it forces everyone to grow or to be more stronger in their belief or to be open-minded. See, we don't have that anymore in America or in the world right now. It's being destroyed every second right now, and purposefully. So I love that level of creativity, and I don't mind the disagreeing. I think that's very healthy. Now, when it comes to the purpose, like, are we just fodder for some evil reptilian aliens playing with us and having their way? Because I do believe in paranormal stuff. I do believe in entities,
like it's the Truman Show,
entities being around us in other dimensions or influencing us and conditioning us, and that we're in this three-dimensional world stuck here and we can't see that right now. I do believe all that, and I think that can go in hand with potential flat Earth theory. I assume.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's layers to it. The first rule of power has never changed in history, which is stay hidden. I love when people talk about, oh, it's Gates doing this, it's Bezos doing this. It's like, I go, they couldn't be more new money, right? I go, you want to talk, they are extremely new money when it comes to that. It's like, talk to the people that haven't had to worry about their bank accounts for a few centuries. Then you might be getting closer. But that's the whole, it's the curse and the blessing of being the puppet master. And that is, you can't be on the stage and pulling the strings at the same time. I think Napoleon said it. He was very quotable. He said, never put yourself in a position that you can be overthrown. Which means if you're a puppet master, like the X-Files people, the people can't go after you if they don't know who you are. Yeah. So, are there reptilians?
But then that's staying quiet.
The what?
That's staying quiet.
Yeah, but they're manipulating people to do their bidding.
Yeah.
It's like the Noahide laws. They're using Sharia laws. What do they call that in Muslim laws? What do they call that?
I can't remember.
We don't know what you're talking about.
I can't pronounce it.
Sharia laws? Anyway. So they're using that to be the front man, and they're just getting their laws put into place.
Yeah. But at the same time, you have to be anonymous. You cannot break out of that. You can't be both, because once you're public, so it's like, it feels like, oh, Elon Musk is doing all this stuff. It's like, Elon Musk is a freaking tool.
Yeah.
He's allowed to do. He's not even an American citizen. God's sake. Oh, it drives me nuts. Anyway, so do I think there's layers, and do I think there's people controlling us at higher levels? Sure. At that point, though.
So we don't have free will.
People are having spiritual experiences, seeing energies and interactions. I mean, it's real.
But you've got to believe in free will, Mark.
Of course he does.
Right? No, he doesn't. He just said there's people controlling us.
Well,
okay. Let him talk.
I don't know if I brought this up.
Put duct tape over his mouth so you can talk, please.
Controlling or manipulating. It's a big difference.
Well, free will, and I probably we don't have a lot of time, but I'll bring it up real quick.
Mark,
guys, any listeners want to look up an experiment? There's an experiment there called free will versus neuroscience. And we didn't design it. Scientists did. It's like you hook up, basically, real quick, you hook up electrodes to a person's brain, you put them on a computer, you say, okay, pick a number between 1 and 10. And they start measuring your brain waves, right? That's what scientists do. It sounds pretty cliche. And they said, oh yeah, also note the time you were going to hit the button. So number between 1 and 10. And you say 5, right? You think 5. And you press 5, right? You note the time. Well, they can tell that you were going to pick the number 8 seconds before you picked it. That's a long time. And so does that mean we have free, which is why scientists hate it. It's like, okay, do we have free will? Are we living in an interactive virtual thing?
Right.
Or are we living in a virtual movie, which we already set out ahead of time?
That would mean that nothing really matters. That we're just told what to do.
No, it's not that nothing matters. It's just that it's called predestination, where we made the choices ahead of time before going in.
Right.
Which
I don't
it's
think
not,
I believe
it's not that. It takes away.
I'm not on board with
I'm
that
not on
yet.
board with that, but I'll tell you why.
I had to bring it up though because you asked.
Christian friends are though. A lot of my Christian churches are 100% predestination. They believe that.
But to Dave's point, though, I see. I'm sorry,
Dave.
Mark's point. Sorry, to Mark's point is that the I know, right? The Mark's
Dave
point
behind me
is that
They're coming to take you away.
Telepathy. When you think, it's very when you think of something when you think of it, and then it comes to your mouth and you share it. It's a very inefficient.
That's energy.
It's a very inefficient process because it takes time. There's a delay, right?
Yeah.
But when you're telepathically communicating with someone, it's instantaneous. Even then, may still be a delay to a certain degree. So I think that's more of what you're experiencing when people say they're knowing your thoughts. There's an 8-second delay because it's an energy transference process. You know. So anyway, that's just my.
I want to know, Mark, because you were on our shows. Like, don't even answer this. This is ridiculous. You are allowed to think what you think. He's allowed to think what he thinks.
I just told him what I thought.
Yes.
I get it. I'm groovy.
You're good.
All God's children.
Right, so what are you going to say?
Judging.
Shannon wants to know what else would your fans think of her. That's
No,
what she
I
wants to know.
don't. No, I don't. Please stay away from that. I want to know about, do you believe in infinite universes and like into infinite dimensions and a big old galaxy
speaking of flat
universe?
earthers.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
Why?
personally.
I've said this many times in other things, which is why would this be a one-off? Why? If there's higher powers, whoever built this, I'm sure has the full ability to build more of them. Why wouldn't you have a whole room full of them in different stages of progression? You know, it's like, they're in the medieval times. It's like, I mean, not to say that this whole thing's for God's amusement, although there are scriptures to that effect.
That'd be kind of evil.
But why not? Yeah,
If it's a satanic god, like half the population believe, it could be evil, a jealous, angry, satanic god.
How can you have a hero without the villain?
Yeah,
right. Light without shadow.
So what's the point, though, Mark? Get to the point. What's the point?
What's the point, Mark?
What's the point of flat Earth? What's the game here? Just to learn, for the humans to grow into, they're knowing that they are of God and that they are spiritual beings, or is it just for amusement to be tortured like a cat and a mouse?
No. I think I do think this place is where we are is more of a school. I mean, it can only be one of three things. It can either be entertainment, which doesn't seem likely because there's a lot of people aren't having fun. It could be confinement, and if it's a prison, it's like it's a pretty nice prison. I mean, there's some really nice places.
I'm not complaining.
Or it could be some sort of school. And school kind of feels like both. Sometimes when you're there, you're learning stuff. I think this place is more of a perspective because people say, well, what's outside of here? And I say, well, if this world is 99.9% conflict, meaning doesn't matter how rich, how powerful, how beautiful, how talented you are, you're always complaining about something. Right? Always complaining about, I mean, mansion, it's like, my servants don't do this. And if you're beautiful, you're constantly looking in the mirror. It's like, oh God, am I still beautiful? And so on and so on. But if this world is 99% conflict, then I think what's outside of here is 99.9% unlimited. I think it's cyclical. I think we get perspective because when we're out, I kind of use it again. We don't have tons of time. I use the 1,000 or the million wish genie thing. So let's say you had a genie and he says, I'll give you 3 wishes. And you're like, one of my wishes is a million wishes. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you start just pulling them off. Right.
Right.
Well, eventually, how many wishes can you get through?
Yeah.
And genie will tell you, he goes, you're never going to make it to 1 million. And eventually at the end, he goes, and you go to him. It's like, man, I am out of ideas. What can I do? He goes, well, I do have a place. You're going to hate it. It's going to suck, but you're there for 70, 80 years and it's going to be just pure conflict. And he goes, and you go, oh, and he goes, I go, why would I go there? It's like, well, because when you come back, you'll appreciate this so much more. And then you say, what's the catch? He goes, the catch is you're never going to remember this conversation. He snaps his fingers, Thanos style, and voila, you're here in a green screen talking to me.
Is that like reincarnation?
My God, you read my notes.
You're so full of shit.
You read my notes.
Look at mine, reincarnation right here. He's a liar. See, you know what? We just telepathically communicated.
You should write a grocery list one day and slip it over there.
All right, so lifetime versus the typical Christian belief, one life.
Well, no. Well, the Christian, forgive me. I was raised born again evangelical Christian, which shouldn't even get into the whole
Heavenly
Revelation.
Father, I love you.
Well, I mean, yeah, we'll talk about the vaccine later another time. How it affects Christianity, but no. With Christianity, it tends to be it's like, okay, once you get to heaven, it's like the angels and the choir, and you stand up there and you sing, and that's it. That's the end of the story. I think it's the end of one story, but I think there's more to follow. I mean, the Bible does have to end, but I think another book picks up.
So, but lifetimes, people.
Yeah,
I believe in
like if you're saying that we come for 99% conflict, does that mean that we are reincarnated? Like we get to live again? Is that what you're saying?
Not from the Hindu standpoint, but yeah, I do, because it's cyclical, meaning. It's the only way to regain perspective. Eventually, I know some Christians are like, it's blasphemy, but you've heard me say this before, which is, look, eventually, even heaven, you got to get used to it, right? There's only so many wishes, even if you could do your own wishes. A lot of people think of heaven, it's like, oh, okay, get in line, get your robe on. And it's God, that sounds horrible.
It's like a vaccine line, salvation. There you go. Salvation's in this vaccine.
Yeah, there you go. But no, for me, I'm just saying that's how I would do it.
Yeah.
Because how it's a constant refresh.
Just the theory.
It's the whole.
Do you believe in soul contracts?
Contracts?
Yeah, like soul contracts.
Oh, well, I mean, you would have to volunteer for it. Right. Meaning when you're there, that would also make sense. And that is, you don't get forced here. You have to ask. It's like, hey, help me out, and it's like, all right.
So
you go.
So the people in charge then, if it's who's
in charge?
Well, my point is, if it's a voluntary aspect, which I agree with everything you said so far in reference to why we come here and have these experiences. School experience, let's say, for example. With that being said, it seems like it has to be a benign energy that's in charge of this flat Earth experiment, because otherwise. We wouldn't. Why would we volunteer to go into something that's being evil and driven from an evil perspective? And maybe here on Earth it is, but from there coming to here, it has to be. The maker has to be a benign entity.
Okay. There's a couple different tracks I could take here. One would be obviously the hero's journey, which is there's always going to be these deep valleys where you're like, oh, he's never going to get out of it. But I'm also a big believer that these worlds, if there's more than one, are also given fragments of God. Meaning God. The thing was, I've said for years, which is, did God build us, or did God subcontract out the work? Or did God just write a program that said, okay, this benign, in this case, I mean, I always wondered why the Old Testament felt like a child that was having a temper tantrum a lot and just burning things down
like a capricious God. I'm not into
a Shannon.
I'm not into capricious gods.
Yeah.
Like crashing the dinosaur into the fire engine, like all the time. And it's like, wouldn't that make sense though, to have the world kind of progress naturally, but also have whoever's running this particular world, whatever energy, whatever entity running this particular world. Now, of course, God has the total say, but when he's running this, whoever's running this particular world would be, you start them out young and they progress as well, because they progress sort of randomly. And because it just seems like whoever's been
Satan's learning how to be good. Satan's learning how to be a good angel again.
Well,
no.
There's
He's
that's
always
a whole other
evil.
thing.
Is that true? How do you know that? How do you
because I listen to the Bible. I read the Bible. Oh God, I screwed up.
Look, Satan.
You either believe in the Bible or you don't.
No,
I don't know what to do.
It's not that black.
You can't. Yes, it is that black and white.
No, it's not that black.
Mark.
What? Satan's a great villain, right? You need him. In this story, without him, it's just la 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 la, and nothing happens.
Yeah, you're right.
So you have to look. You guys watch a lot of media. You can't have protagonist, antagonist. You can't have one without the other. The story means nothing without.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So he's got his purpose. I mean, people keep forgetting. It's like, well, God built Satan as well. Why'd he do it?
Yeah.
It's like, you need the frowny face in the drama poster as well.
And not to mention, Satan at one point was a pretty good angel. It was one of God's best angels.
I want to talk to you about flat Earth. I want to know, what is your mic drop moment to how do you convince people in layman's terms that flat Earth is no doubt true and that the Earth is not round?
Normally I give you my top. I give you my top 5, but I'll give you my top 2.
Yeah.
Because of the ones that are used most often. The one that's used, Dave will probably showed you. I don't know if you guys allowed green screen.
Yeah, it was great. It was really helpful actually to having the power.
Oh yeah, he's been doing that now for a couple of years.
That's good. That's smart.
Firing off videos.
I like it.
And I've watched people just stare at the screen on the other side, going, "What?"
That was me. I had no clue what he was saying. I was the whole time.
Yeah. I was following him. It was good.
He doesn't realize that for a lot of people, he's hitting them with so much information that they probably have to watch the whole thing again a couple
exactly.
times.
Go back and watch it again. So go ahead, Dave. Answer your question.
Layman's terms.
Okay, layman's terms. The top 2,
Shannon.
the most popular one, which Dave uses a lot, would be long distance photography, which I didn't even come up with. When I put out the clues back in 2015, people all of a sudden start saying, "Oh yeah, we're taking cameras to the beach. We're shooting long distance." And I actually asked, like, "Why the hell are you doing that?" It's like, because water's perfectly level, man, and there's stuff out there that should be on the other side of the curve. And I'm going, and it's like, yeah, but I didn't realize, because I've never really owned cameras when I was growing up. So they basically HD changed the game. HD cameras now, you can crank up the zoom. I'm sure he showed you, and you can see objects which should be gone. 20 years ago, you couldn't have done this. Now you can, which is like the boat, the lighthouse, whatever. It should be on the other side of the hill, meaning the curvature of the Earth, once it's gone, it's gone. You can't see something that's over the side of the hill.
Yeah.
And it is. And a picture is worth 1,000 words, and that's what most people gravitate towards.
Gotcha. Well, that's provable. Anybody could prove that,
Oh, yeah, and that's why they did. I mean, tons and tons. Honestly, I'm really surprised Nikon never contacted us and sponsored us for stuff. So many people bought out the P900s and eventually the P1000s.
What's your second one?
The second one, which is my favorite, is the gravity versus the vacuum of space, which is... so let's say there's a second floor to your building, which I think there is. And above you, you create a vacuum chamber, right? And you put a valve right above you and you pull the switch, right? What happens? It's not like the movies. It's instant. It's violent. All the air equalizes, pressure, non-pressure, just, right? You might even die. You'll definitely black out. So the question is, why didn't gravity hold the air in your room instead of sending it upstairs? And it's because vacuum, the pressure differential will win. Vacuum wins every time. Vacuum is extremely powerful. It's tough to visualize for people because they don't realize that what we're breathing right here is not nothing. Right. In fact, it's 80% nitrogen and 20% oxygen. It's not nothing. You're basically breathing a fog, a thin version of water. So the question is, when you go outside, why is our atmosphere still here? Meaning you have a giant vacuum chamber, the biggest vacuum chamber of all surrounding the whole world. Why?
They're spinning and making a vacuum.
No. Well, no. The answer to most people is like, well, it's got to be gravity. I go, you mean the same gravity that couldn't keep the air in your room? Just now, that right 30 feet away, now you're outside and you're saying that the same gravity can't. And I've had people say, well, there's more gravity. I was like, no, it's the same freaking gravity. So the question is, what happens at the bleeding edge of space? Meaning, when you get up at like 500, 600 miles or wherever they say, what happens? Where and people, scientists just drop. They just don't know what to do. They're like, well, there's a molecule differential. They have no idea. No idea. And so that's fascinating.
That's 2 excellent points to contemplate.
But do you believe in gravity?
Oh, that's David's thing. He and I differ on this. Well, I know I do believe in density. But he'll tell you, I'm sure you heard this before in the last thing, which is every scientist you go to will say, we can't tell you what gravity is. We can only tell you what it does. We can only tell you the symptoms of gravity. You drop something, it falls to the floor. It appears to be gravity, but it could also be density, which is if you take a beach ball and you hold it underneath the water at a pool or motion or whatever, and it pops back up. Was it defying gravity? No, it was because it was less dense than the water around it. Right. Well, you can do that with just about anything. You've probably seen those wonderful towers with all these different layers. So could gravity also come into play, some sort of electromagnetic thing? Sure. But density does make a lot of sense because, look, we call it air pressure. Why? Because it's not a pressurized system. If it's a pressurized system, it's air pressure. Where's the freaking barrier? Don't greenhouse gases make more sense if it's an actual greenhouse? There's an actual physical dome up there. Does it make more sense? Because I always wonder, it's like, oh, I got these fluorocarbons and everything going up there. Like, then what happens? They just stay there at a certain level while they fly off into space?
Fascinating. Mark.
What is
God, I don't know why I want to, because he keeps saying Dave. Mark.
He's obsessed.
Sergeant, how can people reach you? We got to get going here.
I know we got to wrap this up. The easiest way is just go into YouTube and type in Flat Earth Mark or my name, Mark Sargent. A reminder to the entire Christian community: Revelation 13 and 14 is no joke.